I think it's definitely a better time to be a business owner as long as you have an open mind and you're willing to use all the tools. But it is highly competitive. And these big brands, the McDonald's, the Chipotle's, the Cheesecake Factories, you better believe that they're using all that stuff and more to the best of their abilities. So for a small guy to really get an edge is you have to be a great operator, you have to be a great marketer, and you have to be able to do it on a budget. So it's not easy, but it can be done.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Duce Raymond. Duce, I can go on forever talking about all your accolades and all the cool stuff that you've been working on. But for our audience that doesn't know you, doesn't know Sweet Baby Ray's, doesn't know all the cool stuff that you've been working on, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm Duce Raymond, and I'm the managing partner at SBR Events Group, and that's our company that holds 3 brands, so Sweet Baby Ray's, True Cuisine, and Duce's Wild. And so basically, my dad's a chef that created Sweet Baby Ray's, and they built an amazing sauce business in 20 years. They started with $2,000, barely a high school education, and a dream. And in a day and age when there was no real technology, they bootstrapped it with hard work and perseverance and built it to a $30 million brand in 20 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's totally crazy. I look back and think about how they were able to do that with really no experience in the retail space, and it blows my mind. And just to think about how much I use the internet, social media, ChatGPT, email, I mean, all the things.
There's so many tools
they did not have access to. It's like it should be easy to do what I try to do, and it's not. But it just blows my mind how hard they had to work and how much success they had. They started in like the early 80s and then ended up selling Sweet Baby Ray's in like 2001, 2002. And it was an amazing American dream story, basically what it is. I mean, they grew up on the west side of Chicago on welfare, moved 7 different times, and they just had a rough. My dad and my uncle grew up rough, and they were able to get out of the hood and really provide an amazing life for themselves and their family. So, and gave me the career that I'm exploring right now. So I'm forever grateful. And one thing that I learned from my dad that kind of sticks with me my whole career is a hard work ethic, and that's something I hope to be able to instill in my kids as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's such a fascinating story, and I'm sure that you talk a lot about it on, all your shows, all your different mediums that you are engaging with your audience. But for a lot of the folks that don't know, you got into the business in I think a non-orthodox way. I'm sure you grew up being around food, being around the sauce, being around the hustle and the bustle. How did you actually get into the role that you are today with the group?
Well, it didn't happen overnight, that's for sure. But I grew up, my dad was running restaurants up in Wisconsin, so I was doing everything for him from coat check to busboy to working on the line. And, that taught me how hard the hospitality industry is. And I actually, through high school, was working there, learning to drink and party and work at the same time. And when I finally got to my senior year, I was like, man, I don't know if this is the career path I want. I knew how hard my dad had worked and everything. So I actually took a year and just went to community college and tried to find a different path. And when I was in college, I was working full time, going to school full time, and partying full time, and I just didn't connect with anything at school. I was like, I'm not doing this for 4 more years. This isn't where my heart is. And so I took a year off. I moved out to Utah with some buddies, and then started working at a really cool restaurant out there and kind of found my passion for food. And then I came back to Chicago and went to Kendall College and, ended up going for 4 years and got a 4-year bachelor degree in the culinary arts. And And that's, even before we opened the Sweet Baby Ray's restaurant. So I had worked at a number of different places leading up to the Sweet Baby Ray's opening, everything from fine dining to Cajun Creole cuisine to, the Wrigley rooftops and a lot of other places in between, hotels and room service and all that type of stuff. So I was, diverse in the business and had the right, hard work mindset to it. But when it came to knowing what I wanted to do in the hospitality industry, I really wanted to open a barbecue restaurant. I thought that would be so cool, but it took a long time. We opened in 2005 and I was still in culinary school at the time, but I thought I should be the chef right away. And I wasn't ready to be the chef and run the show.
What were you missing? What were you missing?
A lot of maturity. I mean, I was still hanging out and partying, and the business side of things, I just didn't understand. I knew how to make good food, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. And, it took us a number of years to get profitable because we put a lot of equity in the name Sweet Baby Ray's, which we were right to do so, but it's still, you have to run the operation like a real business. And we kept on
for sure
putting money into it, trying to grow too fast. And, we had at one point, we had 3 different restaurants, and now we have our one original restaurant and the 2 catering brands, and Duce's Wild is growing slowly in the background as well. But what I found is when I focus on one thing, I can perform the best. And that's what we did with the catering business for a number of years. And now we've got it to a point where we have an outstanding team in place and built some of our own credibility as a catering company that allows me now to work on some of the new projects with Duce's Wild, a new Duce's Wild restaurant with a drive-thru that I know we're going to talk about some more. But it took a long time to get there, and it took a lot of hard lessons and a lot of failures before we've had the success that we're having now.
Yeah, speaking of Duce's in the background there, I see the logo, and I think you've been doing some amazing marketing, right? Because right now Duce's Wild it's a restaurant to be, right? Right now you sell sauces, you sell spices, you sell merchandise. You're kind of building up a brand, and then what's next on the horizon? When is the restaurant going to be coming out? And tell our audience a little bit more about how this idea for Duce's Wild came to be.
Well, the whole idea of Duce's Wild, that was the name that we competed under. So we started doing competitions in 2010, and we competed under the name Duce's Wild Competition Barbecue. And competition barbecue is something like made for me. I'm super competitive. I love sports. And when I found that there was competition barbecue, I was like, this is like amazing. So it was just, it's so much fun. There's so much camaraderie with all the barbecue family, and I really, really enjoyed it. So, but I had to develop spices and rubs for that. Along with the restaurant, we use a lot of the same sauces in the restaurant too. But that's when I really started to kind of develop some of my own sauces and my own flavor profiles. So that's how I got started. And one thing led to the next, and then we wanted to start entering like just the sauces and the rubs themselves into some national barbecue competitions. And then that helped me develop the label for it, and kind of it just started. Really didn't have like we have to beat a market at this time, so it's developed slowly since 2010, and now we're at the point where we have the full e-commerce website. We sell in a couple local stores, and we're just slowly growing right now.
I've never been to a barbecue competition before, or I've never seen one in person. What are the criteria that the judges judge the sauces on, and what is like the meta? Like right now, what is like the best sauce? What is like the best profile of sauces that people try to go for? I have no clue what this is.
Yes, so it's a whole subculture for sure, and
I'm sure. Yeah,
the competitions that we did mainly were KCBS-sanctioned, which is Kansas City Barbecue Society. And they have them all over the country, and they don't do a great job marketing. And that's probably why a lot of people don't know about them. And they've actually kind of fallen off since I've stopped doing them. They are, I mean, you see the big ones like Memphis in May and the Jack Daniels and the Houston Livestock Show. And a lot of people have heard of those. Those are like what they call like the majors.
Yeah.
And,
the majors, okay.
But anyways, there's usually 4 meat categories, which is ribs, chicken, brisket, and pork shoulder. And so you turn in, a box in each one of those categories, and then everything is smoked right there on site, and you have your own spice rubs and your own sauces. And those competitions are really designed around one bite barbecue. So it's super flavorful, just one bite, more than like you could hardly eat a whole slabs of competition ribs because there's so much flavor in them. But that one bite really blows you away. And that, like I said before, it was like I was really into it because like I got to use my chef experience, my competitiveness, and all my barbecue knowledge, and just to turn in this one slab of ribs that you're so excited to turn into the judges because it's going to blow their mind. And it's a really cool experience, but it's very time consuming and very expensive. So as the business started needing me more, and my family started needing me more when I had kids and stuff like that, it just didn't work out time wise and everything. But
Sure.
Something that when I'm older, I'll do again because it's a lot of fun.
I'm sure, but I'm sure that it helped you develop a cult following and a community and helped you get some confidence. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. And more than anything, I just had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, but more than anything, I just really enjoyed doing it. It was a lot of fun.
Of course. That's why you were in it.
Yeah. But the following really comes from building our name on social media. That's where the following really comes from.
Tell us more, man. I think the first time I saw, I'm pretty sure I saw some of your food videos on TikTok just scrolling, but those I'm just scrolling and just looking at food porn all day. So I don't think I made the connection. When I did notice you and took stock at what you were doing was when you were with Sean talking about what Gary Vee told you. I thought that was like a really excellent soundbite. So I'm going to steal that moment. Tell me what Gary Vee told you.
So and that's kind of really how we got started. Once we started on social media, we started taking it seriously, and I had spent a lot of time listening to podcasts before I took action, and I really was buying what Gary was selling. And so when COVID came and we got some of the PPP money, I put it towards actually doing the 4Ds call with the Sasha Group, which is Gary Vee's small business department. And when I was on there, I really struggled with the way that the marketing for our company, because we have True Cuisine, which is like a high-end catering brand. We have Sweet Baby Ray's. We have Duce's Wild. And so, we call it SBR Events Group globally, but SBR Events Group doesn't really sell anything. It's just like a holding name,
it's a holding company. Yeah.
So I was explaining this to Gary, and it sounds simple when I break it down and when he said it, but I really struggled with it for a long time. But he said, you have to market each brand as its own, because each brand has its own customers. A Sweet Baby Ray's client isn't going to be, looking for True Cuisine and so on. So I really took with what he said with a grain of salt. And then we went all into social media that way, and not having, 5 different people to run each thing and post each thing. We just focused on the Sweet Baby Ray's catering brand in the beginning. And as we've grown and learned that, we see that there's more stock in a personal brand where I can talk about multiple things. So now we're transitioning into building like the Duce Raymond brand. We switched our YouTube page over to Duce Raymond. We're going to start posting more content under Duce Raymond Personal on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. So it's been a learning curve. I mean, there is no simple answer in marketing, and anybody that tells you there is wrong, because
trying to sell it or try to sell you some quick get rich quick scheme,
There is nothing like that. I mean, and even today with the following we have, and I mean, we have over 750,000 followers across all platforms. We get, millions of views every single week. It's not like all the sales are just pouring in. And this is, kind of changing my tune a little bit on it, is you have to do everything. You just don't have to do social media. You have to, go out and knock on doors. You have to have the email address so you can directly contact people. You have to have offers inside your physical location. You have to do it all. There is no simple, easy answer, and that's my new message to people now,
So we talked before the show started rolling. We talked about all the tools, right, that we have at our disposal. Comparing that to what your father and your uncle had during their heyday, it almost seems like it's easier to It's easier to run a business. It's maybe easier to run a restaurant, but now you're competing with all these different mediums and there's so much competition. You're competing against other people as well. Do you think it's harder now to run a restaurant than it is back in the day, or is it a better time to be a business owner?
I think it's definitely a better time to be a business owner as long as you have an open mind and you're willing to use all the tools. But it is highly competitive. And these big brands, the McDonald's, the Chipotle's, the Cheesecake Factories, you better believe that they're using all that stuff and more to the best of their abilities. So for a small guy to really get an edge is you have to be a great operator, you have to be a great marketer, and you have to be able to do it on a budget. So it's not easy, but it can be done for sure. Because the one thing that the small guy has that the big guys don't have is they have flexibility of management. And what that means is they can make decisions and move quickly. When we see a trend changing or we want to do things differently because we feel like our customer or our clientele is going to like it, then we can change immediately. For a big company to make a change, it's hard. It's not
so much bureaucracy. Yeah, absolutely. So much bureaucracy. We were just, as a team, we were talking about how you have all these startups coming out with voice interfaces. And we think of one of the behemoths of Apple, right? They've been working on Siri for 17 plus years, and it still is a piece of shit. Sorry for my language. It's horrible. Yeah. But then you have all these companies coming on, and as an example, like what we're doing, we're trying to automate drive-thrus of all things. And what we've been able to do in a year is, I can imagine, like for a big company having to juggle all the bureaucracy and laws and blockers. It's extremely tough to move quickly and adapt to what customers are wanting, right? So I'm curious, you mentioned that you wanted to do a drive-thru for Duce Raymond. How the heck are you going to put a drive-thru in a barbecue restaurant? Tell me about the master plan there.
Well, what people really don't understand is they think that barbecue takes forever to cook, and they're right. 14 hours for brisket, 12 hours for pork shoulders, 3 to 4 hours on ribs. But once it's cooked, it's ready to go. So it's actually a quick serve concept. And barbecue really holds well, especially the big cuts. The brisket and the pork, the longer you hold them, the better they get. As long as you have the right equipment and you're holding them at the right temperature, it really just gets better with time. So the drive-thru works really well as long as everything can come together. The sides are quick and everything will come together fast. So it takes a long time, but once you're there, you're ready to go. And so I think the drive-thru is perfect for barbecue. And really what I've talked to many different operators and quick serve type of business is up to 60 to 70% of their business can go through the drive-thru. So that's what I'm really excited about. And why we're doing it here. So we've got a unique situation where we're actually opening the new restaurant right across the street from the existing restaurant. And we're going to close the existing Sweet Baby Ray's restaurant, but we're pretty confident that, 90+% of the clientele will move over to the Duce's Wild restaurant. So we've already got built-in business that we know works, but we're going to add the drive-thru. We're going to add the new look. It's going to be aesthetically looking awesome, and people are going to just like being there. And it's going to have a mural that explains the whole story of Sweet Baby Ray's, that what led into Duce's Wild, and have the family legacy there. And I think it's just going to be a really cool operation. And we've learned so much over the last 15 years, or actually 20 years having the restaurant open, that I think we're going to knock it out of the park. And then eventually the whole plan is to do more of them. I'm not putting all this time and money and effort into opening one restaurant, but we want to have multiple, 50 Duce's Wild across the country, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm sure that is a very tough decision to make. And I'm sure you probably have spent years thinking about how to do it, but I'm sure you're kind of bounded by how much you're able to scale based on the fact that Sweet Baby Ray's was acquired by another party. Yeah. That's probably the reason, right?
That's the whole thing, is like we're only able to use the name Sweet Baby Ray's while either my dad or my uncle are a 50% owner. And Uncle Dave my dad passed away 3 years ago, and even with AI, I don't think I can get Uncle Dave to live forever. So we're planning for the future, and I'm hoping to be able to continue the legacy with Duce's Wild,
Absolutely. And it's a fresh concept. And I can already see that with how much effort and thought that you put into the operations and the marketing and the logo and everything about it, it just seems like it's ready to scale. And so if you had to, let's imagine 5 years from now. Okay. Mm-hmm. You and I talk again in 5 years. Where would you want to be at
5 years
in terms of your operations and in terms of the brand?
5 years, I hope the catering company continues on its path in growth. Right now we're in a great spot. We have to build our catering, corporate catering business. Our wedding we're knocking out of the park. Our wedding business is amazing. Last year we did 350 weddings, and I couldn't really ask for more than that. The corporate's where we can grow, and so the catering business is doing roughly around 8 million in sales. We want to build that to 12 million, and I think that will max out kind of the space that we're in right now. And then the Duce's Wild concept, the first one's going to open in 26, and once we run for a year, proof of concept, so then we can start planning on the next one. So in 5 years, maybe we'll be on restaurant 3 for Duce's Wild, I'm hoping, and then the Duce's Wild sauces and rubs are going to continue to grow online as that website gets stronger and the following grows, and then eventually move into retail and the major retailers, the Albertsons and the Jewels and the Marianos and all that stuff.
It's probably too early to ask, but do you see Duce's as a franchisable business, or you think operationally it's difficult to franchise the concept?
Anything's possible. And
Anything's always possible.
Let me get to the first 5 or so and then make that determination. I mean, I don't want to limit myself. I think this is how I look at it. Sweet Baby Ray's sold their brand for $30 million. And that was 30 years ago. And today's dollars, maybe it's 60 million. So I want to be able to at least match what my dad and uncle were able to do. So I'm shooting for, a brand that's worth at least $60 million. So I have a lot of work to do, but I think I can do it. I think the McDonald's guy started when he was like 57 years old or something like that.
For sure.
So I'm only 44 and I've already got, some good experience and everything like that. And I'm young and, I quit drinking and doing drugs. So I have a lot of energy and I have 3 daughters. So I have to make a lot of money to be able to afford them.
Yeah, you are. I love that you're so raw about this, about your journey, about this industry. It's something that always draws me to people like you that are just so excited about food and so excited to make other people happy and put good product out. That I'm very excited to see where you go, and the fact that you are carrying a legacy, which I think almost every single person in America knows Sweet Baby Ray's, and you're carrying that legacy with you and you want to take it to the next level. I think that's very bold of you. I think that your father is looking down on you, very proud, and your uncle is also hopefully very proud of what you're doing. And for my audience of, small business owners, operators, people that are trying to come out with new concepts, I think this is an excellent story to see that anything is possible. So Duce, if you had to leave us with a couple of your maxims, the top 1 or 2 things that you live by that you think other operators should hear that would help them with their business, what would those be?
I think that you always have to take the positive. When something bad happens, whether it's in your business or in your personal life, always figure out how to take a positive spin on it, because I've seen it time and time again in my personal life, especially when something really bad happens, being able to, take a step and be upset or be consider everything that's going on, but then really dig in and see how is this actually going to affect me positively. And all the time, every situation, you can always find something positive from. And in the moment, it could be frustrating, but I guarantee you, if you look and really think about it, you'll be able to find the positive. The other thing that we say all the time in our business is act with a servant's heart. And I think that's huge in the hospitality industry. If it doesn't make you happy to make other people happy, then the hospitality industry is not for you, because you really have to act with the servant's heart. And then the last thing is that Uncle Dave says all the time is do the right things for the right reasons. And that's something that is ingrained in me all the time, is we always try to do everything the right way, and that's, you can take a legal spin on it. You can take a moral spin on it. You can look at it however you like, but that's served us well. And I would say business is hard, and it's going to take time to develop your own style. And if you don't have to work hard for it, you're not going to appreciate it. So, everything that we've built now, it was very challenging, even with the name Sweet Baby Ray's. So we're very blessed to have that. But even with that, everything has come with challenges. And, when you're running a business, you're working with people. People are so different, and so many good things, but bad things too. And it's a challenge. The HR side of the business is challenging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the hardest industry to be in. And just because we're making people happy and putting good food out doesn't make it any less difficult. Duce, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see what's in store. And for my audience that is listening, all his links will be in the description, but I'm sure you probably already know him. So we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, man.
Cheers. Peace.